Hello and welcome to Portrait of a Ghost. Now, this is a blind playthrough, so without further ado, let's get into it. Part 1: How to Profit Off of Grief. Right this way, madame. Please, make yourself comfortable. But why don't we have a chat before we begin? Tell me more about your dear husband. There. Yes, bless his poor soul. In a modest sitting room with curtains open to the afternoon sun, the widow perched like a shadow in the arms of a plush velvet seat. With her veil pulled back from her head, delicate fingers clutching the handkerchief she brought repeatedly to her large, sorrowful eyes, she made the perfect image, picture perfect, of the poor, grieving soul that the gentleman sitting before her so often received. A poet might have described her glistening eyes as deep pools of wretched misery, or oceans that had no end. But Arthur Hope was not a poet. His only observation about the woman's face was his hope that she wouldn't burst into tears during the sitting. Arthur made his living off of grief, of course, but dealing with the grieving was a rather tiresome facet of his profession. As the widow went on about her poor deceased lover, his gentle and charitable nature, and so on, he carefully prodded her, now and again, about the man's general features, forming an image in his head of how to best shape his next creation. A young man with a lion's mane of bright hair, average height, deep-set eyes. I'm sure I have a plate matching the description somewhere. It's a good thing I had that wig handy. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I have a real picture to take first. There are so many things I wish I said to him. Oh, he told me not to worry, but I'm sure he was a wonderful man, madame. I'm so sorry once again for your loss. You know, I always tell my clients I can never guarantee when my camera might capture a spirit. But today, I feel almost certain he might be in the room with us. Why don't we take your picture now and see for ourselves? Oh, yes, of course. Make yourself at home. I'll be right back. Center your subject within the frame. Like that? That should leave enough space to add a spirit. Oh. We're ready to begin. Please stay still until I tell you when the exposure is complete. Yes. If you're there, my darling, please show yourself. Please. Arthur Hope hadn't always been a charlatan. Once, he had been Artie, a shy and painfully honest boy with angelic blue eyes and a limitless imagination. He spent every chance he could in his uncle's library, losing himself in tales of monsters and terror. They were never so frightening as the real world around him, he could honestly say. Honesty, however, would rarely turn out to help him. Honesty had not stopped his uncle's cane, nor his withering looks. It did not protect him from his schoolmates' vicious pranks, nor impress the teachers. Gray, hollowed men with thinning hair and thick spectacles at the various boarding schools that always inevitably sent him back home. It hadn't always been his fault. One had simply closed due to an unfortunate scarlet fever outbreak. No, it was a liar's world, and by the time Arthur Hope first found himself behind the lens of his late uncle's sliding box camera, he'd built, well, if not a kingdom of lies, then at least a barony. At just shy of 30, his schemes had brought him an unsteady income and the regard of a handful of influential friends, few of whom knew his background or how much he'd truly borrowed from them. Arthur's uncle had taken up photography late in his life, and having no family save for his troublesome nephew, had left the young man the aging house he'd turned into his studio, along with a small fortune in equipment after his death. Arthur had had little interest in the profession beforehand, but even he could not resist the allure of a burgeoning technology that was so much like magic, capturing light through a mechanical eye, preserving an image of the world, a single moment in time. It was something just like the tales of mystery he grew up on. The ability to capture his own likeness was, of course, its own draw. He had a fair face, he was not shy to admit, and would like a reminder of it should he ever have the misfortune of living a long life. Carefully, he slid the plate holder out from the camera's wooden frame. A pile of discarded glass plates and blurry albumen prints sat on a table beside him, the fruits of his earlier attempts. I have a good feeling about this one. Let's get you to the dark room, shall we? It was as the print formed in the early afternoon sun that Arthur Hope saw his uncle's ghost in the frame beside him. Curious. I'm not quite sure what I have to do here. Just give me 1 second. Oh, I understand it now. So you can, like, physically drag the pictures. I'm not quite sure what I need to do here, but perhaps just moving them all into frame. Okay. It was only after a sleepless night of waiting for a spirit to accost him, then furiously rifling through his uncle's equipment, that he realized he'd made a simple and perfectly ordinary mistake. Photographic plates have to be cleaned very thoroughly to remove any imprint left behind by a previous negative. Arthur, an amateur, had not done so. Thus, a trace of his uncle's self-portraits remained on the glass plate he'd used for his own. But the fact that the image had lined up so perfectly was nothing short of a miracle. A miracle that sparked the idea for a brand new, lucrative story in Arthur's mind. It's him! Oh, my darling, I knew you were with me all this time. Thank you, Mr. Hope. Thank you. He looked so peaceful. I don't know what to say. Overwhelmed, the widow began to sob. Arthur patted her back gently. I can earn more if I make them come back for a sitting or two before I give them a spirit, but gah, I felt sorry for her this time. I'm growing soft. Not at all, madame. It brings me joy to know you have a guardian spirit watching over you even beyond the grave. I can be at peace now, thanks to you. Please, take this. She handed him a stack of crisp banknotes, far more than the agreed-upon sum. I can't possibly, madame. I insist. Not a bad use of time after all. Part 2. Portrait of a Girl. Late in the evening, a knock came at Arthur's door. The widow had been his last appointment of the day, but it was all too common for unwanted visitors to arrive long after closing. Sometimes it was the press, sometimes an angry skeptic, sometimes a wretched, grieving soul who would beg for his charity. Arthur. Oh, okay, so you can kind of choose what's going on here. Hang on. I'm going to take this opportunity to save, since this is the first real decision. I'm going to overwrite the previous save. There's not really a point in keeping it around. I think right here I will head for the door. Arthur crept down the staircase to the entryway of the old house and quietly approached the door. He carefully looked through the spy hole. Stood there, in the rain, was a girl. She didn't seem to have an umbrella or raincoat. It was a miracle she wasn't drenched thoroughly. Perhaps she'd arrived by carriage? But Arthur hadn't heard one approaching, and none were stopped in the street. Once more, she rapped on his door. Arthur wondered how long she'd been standing there. He decided to open the door, why not? With some hesitation, Arthur swung the door open. Can I help you, miss? In the gloom of the rain, lit with only the light coming from the hall, the young woman was surprisingly lovely. She looked about 20, with a face so fair she could have been a porcelain doll, if not for the deep brown eyes that stared with such vivid intensity from behind her dark lashes. Locks of her chestnut hair spilled from a bonnet trimmed with wide ribbons and silk roses. Her gown was made of a rich green satin with fine white lace and looked expensive, yet at least a decade out of style. The girl clearly came from money, but it seemed that she, or her guardians, had dated tastes. Are you the photographer? Her voice was soft, but did not betray any nervousness. Her brown eyes stared right at him, almost, Arthur felt, straight through him. Well, yes, but my friends call me Arthur. I don't wish to become your friend, sir. But if you are indeed who you say you are, then I require your services. Making demands straight away, eh? Definitely a rich lass, perhaps even highborn. In that case, best to hear her out. What can I do for you, miss? You are the photographer, are you not? I need you to take my picture. I'd be happy to make an appointment with you, miss, but I can't guarantee a spirit will appear. I don't want anyone or anything else in the photograph. I just need my picture taken. A likely story. She wouldn't be the first to ask for a simple, ordinary sitting, while secretly hoping for a ghost to appear. Well, I'm fully booked for quite a while, but I'd be happy to arrange a sitting. You have no one with you now, so why can't you take my picture? Miss, it's late. Lamplight makes for a poor image, and I'd have to wait until daylight to make the print in any case. Might I also emphasize how inappropriate it is for a young lady to call upon a man, uninvited after dark. Please, one picture, that's all I ask. Please, I've been waiting so very long. Gah, I should... I'm assuming this is another choice? Yeah, I assumed as much. That's it. This is the second point that I really want to save at. I'll hear her out. I kind of want to see where this is going. Can I at least ask why you need a photograph so badly? There's somebody I must send my picture to. Somebody who I haven't seen in a very long time who needs to see how I look now. How I've changed. There are plenty of other studios that could accommodate you. None of them would open their doors to me. None of them are like you. There truly is nobody in this world like you, sir. Well, if there's anything I can't resist, besides a large purse, it's flattery. And let's admit it, that sweet face isn't an easy one to refuse. Being around sobbing fools all day really has turned me soft. Fine, you've convinced me. Please, step this way, miss. Edith. Edith Harper. Can I offer you any tea? None. Thank you. Please, can we hurry? As you wish. Oh, it's so hard to see. I think... Oh, it's so hard to see in this lighting. I'm gonna take a gamble that right here is right. Maybe? Oh, wait. There we go. Perfect. Not perfect. Am I looking at the wrong place? Do I need... Wow. That took really long. Apparently this was centered I did not figure that out. I got it eventually, though. Anyway, we'll need more candles. I can't get an image like this. Technology is awfully inconvenient. You could have come during daylight, you know. Okay, then. At least that makes it easier. Right. Wait. Where did she go? Are you ready yet? Yes. We can begin now. What's come over me? First, I let some arrogant, ill-mannered girl walk over me like a carpet, and now I'm seeing things. $59, $60. Done. You can move now, miss. Is that all? Good. I'll go prepare the plate now. But again, you'll have to come back tomorrow for the print, Miss Harper. I open at... I'll visit you at the same time tomorrow evening. Good night, sir. Wait. I think this is another point where I think I might want to save. I don't know how many endings there are, but this feels like an important decision too. I think with the run I'm going for, I'm gonna stop her. Do you need me to call you a carriage? It's awfully rainy. Oh. That's sweet of you, but decorum isn't necessary. You don't have to act concerned for me. She smiled a little sadly, but quickly turned her back and again headed for the doorway. I'll be back soon. Good night. Disregarding his protests, she slipped from the room, through the entryway, and out the front door into the rainy night. She didn't even ask to borrow an umbrella. Damn. Well, damn it. I forgot to discuss payment, too. Well, hopefully she brings enough with her tomorrow. Now, I have to get this plate ready before it dries. But after that, perhaps I'll retire early. It certainly has been an interesting night. That night, Arthur Hope had strange dreams. Part 3. Phantoms. A chill wind rocked the house, rapping against the walls. Figures crept around the edges of Arthur's vision, flickering like flames, hovering like moths. A weight covered his entire body. He could not shift or twist his limbs. The blankets engulfing him felt like earth packed with stones. Heavy, cold, damp. Something wriggled under his clothes, creeping up his neck, over the side of his cheek, into his eye sockets. Another crawled into his open mouth, slithered down his windpipe. He tried to scream, but not a sound came. His jaw was locked in place. His lungs were still. More writhing things engulfed him, eating at his flesh, digging between his bones. Arthur jerked violently out of bed, gasping. Cold air filled his lungs, bringing him back to the waking world. He rubbed his eyes, then struck a match and lit the candle at his bedside table. The flame danced as he lifted it, gingerly in the dark. No use trying to go back to sleep after that. Water first, then I'll head to my study and read. What? A noise rang out in the dark. Arthur listened. Sure, it must be the rain on the roof or a shutter against the windows. But the sound was too close to come from outside. No, it was more like footfalls, the creaking of a floorboard. Good Lord, did someone break in while I was asleep? Quietly, Arthur reached bedside. I'm sorry, beside his bed. I'm too tired for this. For the familiar weight of his uncle's cane. Then carefully, cautiously stood up. Oh boy, I get to look around. Where do I need to... It's right there, good. Get a hold of yourself, Art. A burglar is nothing. You've dealt with worse. Still nothing. This pounding in my chest. It's all thanks to that blasted dream. Hello? I know you're there. Come out. Nothing. Did I imagine it? I'm sure I heard a sound. The sound came again, but thicker, heavier, clunking along the wooden floorboards. Arthur continued through the house, heartbeat growing faster, louder, more erratic with every step. His grip never left the hefty weight of the wooden cane. I'll teach you never to lie to me again, boy. I didn't. I swear it. Then who left it out in the rain? This book was worth more than your sorry hide. But the cane seemed to grow heavier in his hand. Then warmer. Then white hot, like a flame. Arthur jerked and dropped it from his hand. It landed on the floorboards with a thud. He brought his searing hand to the candlelight. It was burned straight through the bone, leaving ruined, melted flesh on his blackened skeleton. Fire engulfed his body. His skin melted from his flesh, crisping and charring. He let go of the candle, screaming. The tiny flame licked at the wood and set it alight, Everything turned to smoke and fire and dust. Arthur tried to run, to scream again, but black smoke filled his lungs. His body felt like it was buried in earth. Hot, burning, earth. Nothing was left of him now but bones and ash. And then, there was nothing left at all. Nothing but darkness. And the sound of that infernal cane. Arthur Hope's remains curled up on the floor, writhing like an insect, uttering pitiable, choking cries that sputtered into rasping gasps. And there, as he lay on the floor, in the corner of his eye, blurry, barely visible, like a photographic negative, an afterimage, a phantom. A figure stood, ghostly white. Part 4. Portrait of a Ghost. Arthur Hope awoke at dawn in his bed. He lay silently, heart still racing as the faint ruby light traced his face. He breathed in, then out, in, then out, slowly, until his heartbeat steadied. Then he gingerly sat up and rubbed his eyes. I haven't had dreams like that since the old man... Well, not in a long time. He felt beside his bed. The familiar, terrible weight of that old wooden cane rested in the same spot it always did. A quick look in the mirror as he dressed confirmed that his body and skin remained intact and unburned. And he was none the worse for wear, save for a dark shadow blooming around his eyes. That morning he skipped his usual perusal of the paper and crept up to his study, unearthing a pen and ink from an old journal from his drawer instead. Familiar old handwriting and scribbles peeked out of the pages. Why am I so shaken up that I'd return to this? It's a shame no one's invented a camera that can capture dreams yet. But I suppose then there'd be no need for poets. The hours passed by, yet Arthur found himself in such a daze that he could barely focus as he lined up shot after shot and prepared plate after plate. A strange night. Old memories. A strange yet stunning girl. It was late afternoon by the time Arthur realized he'd forgotten to do what the same girl who so occupied his mind had asked of him. Damn it. It's cloudy out, but there should be enough light to get a print. Arthur carefully set the glass plate in the printing frame, secured a sheet of albumen paper against it, then closed the case and set it by the windowsill. Now to let it sit. It was as the last rays of the sun faded that Arthur Hope pulled the image from the frame and stared straight into the face of a corpse. What in the... The negative looked fine when I put it in. Did I expose it under the wrong plate? But none of my ghosts look like this? That girl, Edith. She must have tampered with it. But why? What does she want with me? Familiar rapping came at the door. Arthur stared at the doorway with a sick feeling in his chest. Oh, you better believe I'm saving the game here. No shot in hell I'm not. But you know what? I'm going to be a good photographer. I will deliver the picture. Or at least try to. Arthur stomped at the door and flung it open, 1,000 questions and accusations on his tongue. You have a lot to explain, Miss Harper. This isn't... Nobody was there. No girl in green satin. Not a single soul. Arthur gritted his teeth and turned away. Why are you so upset? Huh. The girl who stood in his sitting room wore no bonnet or day dress. Dirt and soil and damp, dark stains clung to her bare feet and rotted, ruined nightgown. Her skin clung to her flesh in patches, pieces of it eaten away and rotted to the bone. Her long hair was matted in thick tangles. Her eyes were gaping hollows. Someone of your profession certainly startles easily. Miss Harper? What do you want? This isn't funny. Certainly not. I'd like my photograph, please. What kind of trick is this? You're the ghost photographer, are you not? Isn't that why you agreed to take my picture? You're a ghost? You expected me to be among the living. Well, perhaps proper introductions are in order. My name is Edith Emmeline Harper. I died in an accident 11 years ago. I'll spare you the details, but in short, I found it rather upsetting that my body still hasn't been discovered. So, when I heard about you, I decided to take matters into my own hands. You expect me to believe any of this? Is this new to you? I thought you were more of the worldly type. See for yourself, then. Edith reached out toward him. Arthur jerked back, but the girl did not flinch. She gently lifted a filthy hand to his face. Arthur waited for the feeling of rot and flesh, but the girl's skin was smooth and cold. Ice cold. Far too cold and still to belong to something living. Her fingers lingered there until finally Arthur grasped her hand with his own. It felt like gripping ice. The longer he held, the more his own skin grew cold, numb, and then prickled like something was crawling beneath it. That's enough. Fine. Fine. You're dead. So what does a ghost want with me then? I want you to send that photograph to my brother. The stupid fool thinks I ran off with some man. Me? Elope? Honestly. Tell him to look for me near the old chapel where we used to play. Why don't you tell him yourself? Why haunt me? Very few people can see or hear ghosts, Mr. Hope. And of them, well, let's just say that few murderers end up as professional photographers. What did you say? There was only one thing in common between the people who could see or hear me, Mr. Hope. They'd all killed before. Part 5. Memento Vivere. Arthur Hope wasn't always a charlatan. Once, he'd been a penniless young man struggling to make an honest living, and often had to supplement his income through other means. When one day, a letter arrived for him from his elderly uncle, requesting his assistance around the household due to the old man's ailing health. Young Art packed his few belongings and headed to what he hoped would be a welcome reunion. That hope would quickly be dashed. I never killed anyone. I didn't kill him. I didn't mean to. He had half a foot in the grave already, so I didn't. Arthur. I just wanted to scare him. He deserved that much. He treated me like dirt my entire life. And then, when he called me to his sickbed, I thought maybe he'd apologize to me just once. But no. The old man wanted to cut me out of his will. Me, his only flesh and blood. Just to spite me. He knew that I had nothing. He knew that that money was the difference between life and death, but all he wanted was to spit in my face at the end. What else could I have done? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Look at you. You're alive, aren't you? So long as you're alive, you can change. You can claw yourself out from whatever hell you've built. It's only us ghosts who have to be stuck in the past. Yet, you've been haunted all this time, haven't you? It's done. I signed it in your name, so you'll be sure to open it. Thank you. Arthur Hope carefully placed the sealed envelope into his coat pocket and dusted himself off. His possessions, most of the things that belonged to his uncle, rather, had all been sold or given away. Pale daylight filtered through the curtains onto an almost empty room. The house felt like a ghost of itself. Arthur picked up his worn leather suitcase, packed with the few belongings he'd first arrived with long ago, and checked that the envelope was still in his pocket. Then he walked down the empty hall. He stopped when he saw the familiar shape of the wooden cane resting against the wall. He briefly picked it up, feeling its weight, ran his fingers along its aged surface, then sighed and set it down again. He walked out the front door without looking back, a figure only he could see trailing behind him. What will you do? Start over. Or try to. I need time to sort out all my messes. Time away from here. It's not like I have anything tying me to this place. I do wonder, though, if ghosts exist, why didn't the old man ever haunt me? Perhaps he had no reason to stay. Ghosts aren't eternal. They fade away, just like people do. Like I will too, is what it sounds like she wants to say. Arthur exited the post office and decided to walk to the harbor. The air was cool and damp. He carefully stepped over puddles left behind from the rain, weaving between passerby. Perhaps people rushing here, there, without any break in their monotone lives. But at least they were alive. What will you do? What I've done for the past decade, I suppose. Wander around, see the sights, watch my brother and my nieces. Wait until I get sick of the living world and see what lies beyond. Say, can ghosts travel? Far away from where they died, I mean. I don't know. I can't say I've ever tried. Well, I feel like this is an ending. Hang on. Can my character date a ghost? Would you like to? Would you like to join me? I mean, countless years without anyone to talk to sounds awfully dull. I thought you said you had enough of ghosts. Fake ghosts. Metaphorical ghosts. Not the real thing. Well, I suppose I had better keep an eye on you. Who knows what trouble you'll dig yourself into? And you are far better company than some of the serial killers I've met. That's horrifying. And fascinating. Tell me more. As the ship pulled away from the harbor, Arthur spotted a familiar face amongst the passers on deck. The passengers, oh my, I'm so tired. Oh my god. Mr. Hope, is that you? Madame, what brings you here? I'm returning home to see my family. I know my dear Samuel wouldn't want me to be all by myself. But what about you? I'm doing some traveling. Oh, just a moment. You have a bit of dust on your shoulder. As the young woman's attention was diverted, Arthur deftly slipped a wad of banknotes into her pocket. I wish you all the best, Madame. You as well, Mr. Hope. Take care. Edith? The girl had stepped away to watch the sea, transfixed on the deep blue that stretched towards the horizon. The sky had cleared, and sunlight now sparkled on the crashing waves. Arthur stood beside her quietly and gazed out as the ship slowly sailed away from shore. If he were a poet, he might have tried to describe the color of the sky or the depths of the water breaking around them. But he only sighed and felt a little sorry that his sliding box camera hadn't fit in his case. Finn. Arthur H. Hope would succumb to consumption within a decade, but only after writing a series of beloved mystery novels that featured a cunning detective and his unusual companion, a ghost. He became known for his odd habits, including carrying a sliding box camera around with him and seemingly always talking to himself. His last words were supposedly a name, Edith. To his dying day, he never revealed just how he made his ghosts appear in his photographs. Some believe they were simply real all along. Ending 4, Carpe Diem. There's 4 endings? Oh, man. Oh, there's 4 endings. Wow. Okay. I saved a good few times throughout, so I think I should be able to suss out some of the endings pretty easily. Let me start with the ones that I think are like later on. Like starting with right here. So instead of dating a ghost, I can just drop the subject. I see. Well, I guess this is goodbye. Yes, for now, at least. Everybody dies, you know. Perhaps I'll see you again sooner than you think. Farewell, Edith. As the ship pulled away from the harbor, Arthur spotted a familiar face amongst the passengers on deck. Mr. Hope, is that you? Actually, it says skip right here. I can probably get through that part. As the widow walked off, Arthur turned and gazed out at the sea. The sky had cleared, and the sunlight now sparkled on the crashing waves. He stared out at the shore and thought he could see, for a moment, a flash of green standing in the harbor. But the next moment, it was gone. Finn. Arthur H. Hope would be arrested and convicted on fraud charges within the next 5 years. Wow, that is a crazy turn of events. It seemed he never could change his old habits. He was unable to complete his sentence, however, as his death would quickly worsen. He succumbed to consumption in a matter of months. His last words were supposedly a name, Edith. Coincidentally, it would be a Miss Edith Amy Harper who would compile the poems he'd written during his short imprisonment and publish them posthumously. How did she compile that? Yet nobody could figure out, in the end, just how he'd made his ghosts appear in his photographs, or if they were real all along. Ending 3, Carmen Signy. What if I send her away? I think I've made my answer clear, miss. Good day. Please. Arthur slammed the door closed. He waited there for a moment, perhaps out of some small sense of remorse for leaving a desperate girl alone in the rain, but no further knocking came. Perhaps I could have offered her an umbrella, but she didn't ask. And it isn't my concern anyway. Sparing one final glance at the door, he turned his back and retreated up the staircase to his study once more. Time passed, and Arthur soon forgot about his strange visitor. This has to be an ending, right? Right this way, Miss Harper. Can I offer you any tea? None, thank you. Of course. Ah, did you bring a guest with you for the sitting? What? No, I came alone. Then, who is that? Well, never mind. Ending 1. Memento Mori. Huh. Did I miss an ending somewhere? If I ignore the knocking in the beginning, so he got up only to stretch, then returned to the desk where his correspondence was piled. More requests to travel for sittings. It's high time I open a separate studio. But perhaps it'd be better to leave this town entirely first. His thoughts were interrupted by another knock, and soon, another. Perhaps I should at least see who it is. Arthur crept down the staircase to the entryway of the old house and quietly approached the door. He carefully looked through the spy hole. Yeah, same old, same old. What if I ignore her? Arthur stepped back from the door, but once more the knocking came, growing more desperate. Perhaps she needs help. I hate to get involved, but it wouldn't do me good to become known for letting some poor soul catch a death in the rain. Alright. That's surprising. So what if I hear her out? Then you have to come to this point in the game. I don't know where ending 2 is. What if I just act like a dirtbag the whole time? Would that impact my dream? The hours passed by, and the previous night had left him in such a daze that it was only after he sent off a tearful client in the late afternoon did Arthur remember the strange girl and her odd request. Damn it, it's cloudy out, but there should be enough light to get a print. There was new dialogue there. There wasn't much, but there was a little bit. So what if I keep acting like a dirtbag? As her bony fingers lingered on his face, he felt his own skin grow colder, tingling until it felt like something was crawling beneath it. Maybe there wasn't anything that I missed. Part 5, Memento Mori. Arthur Hope wasn't always a charlatan. Once he'd simply been a desperate man. Once. Now that was no longer the case. Nobody looked twice at the well-dressed gentleman with twinkling blue eyes. Eyes, even though he was far too young to need the heavy walking stick he carried as he trapezed, urn in hand, to the shore side. There, he tossed the pile of ashes into the sea. Then he turned and walked back the way he came. I never killed anyone. I didn't kill him. Get out. Now. And don't come back. I still need you. I'm done helping you. Done. The dead should stay dead. They should stay out of the affairs of the living. Damn it. Haven't I given enough? Haven't I suffered enough? How much more are you going to take from me? The girl looked at him with hollow, empty eye sockets. Her mouth was set in what almost looked like an expression of pity. When Arthur looked at her again, she was gone. Time passed, and the days moved on, much like they always had. But Arthur never completely forgot his ghostly visitor. Sometimes he imagined he could see her hollow face peeking from behind a doorway, or the corner of the frame of his sliding box camera. But the next moment, it would be gone. Arthur's clients continued to visit him, seeking to soothe their sorrow and grief, and Arthur continued to provide what only he could. And he might have done so for a long time, if not for the one ghost that turned out to be quite alive. A distraught young woman had visited him after her beloved had died at sea. His ship sunk beneath the waves. Yet a few weeks after his ghost portrait was taken, he turned up right at his beloved's doorstep, thin and haggard, but very much still breathing. It seemed that after his ship sank, the sailor miraculously washed up on a desert island, where he survived off of kelp and rainwater for some weeks before finally being rescued. Soon people began to talk, and more inconsistencies in the spirit photographs came to be noticed. Until finally one day, an angry crowd formed at Arthur's doorstep. But by then, the confidence trickster had fled. Arthur Hope was never seen or heard from again. Indeed, the name Hope soon became forgotten as other so-called spiritualists and mediums followed in his footsteps, claiming to speak to the dead or hear otherworldly voices. Most of them were frauds. Not a scant few believed in their own powers. so desperate they were to speak to their departed loved ones. Edith pitied them more than she pitied the bloodied ghosts she would pass by every now and then. Ghosts like the man who once had devilish eyes and smiled slyly from behind a sliding box camera. He would appear from time to time in the window of the old house until it was destroyed. And then, along the shore of the sea on nights when the fog rolled in. Edith knew that the living would never dare hope to hear the voices of the dead. If they only knew the sound of Arthur Hope's blood-curdling screams. Ending 2. Sic Transit Gloria Mundi. I think that was all of the endings. This was actually a really good game. I kind of like the atmosphere and vibe I had going on. It kind of reminds me of like there's not a lot of romances with this kind of tone, but there's been like a couple I've seen every now and again where it's like romance with like a slightly spooky setting. This reminds me of that. Very, very good stuff. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and have a great rest of your day. See ya.